welcome to the LOLO CYNTHIA show. On today's show, we'll be tackling the issue of high-functioning anxiety. Usually when we think about anxiety, we think about someone who is crippled by worry and fear to the extent that they're unable to function. But not all anxiety manifests in that way. High-functioning anxiety actually ensures that the person is enthusiastic to get to work, but secretly dealing with fear and panic internally. So on today's episode, we'll be talking to different women from South Africa, the UK, and Nigeria who are dealing with high-functioning anxiety. They will tell us how this high-functioning anxiety manifests itself in their professional lives. And also, we would wrap up the show, of course, by talking to a psychologist that would give us expert opinion on how we can recognize high-functioning anxiety and ways that we can manage it. First guest today is Miss Inonge from South Africa. Miss Inonge shares that her childhood challenges shaped her pursuit for perfection. She shared that the neglect that she experienced during childhood has actually made her anxious as an adult and forced her to strive for perfection and independence. Thank you so much, Miss Inonge, for joining us on the show today. Thank you.
So glad to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I guess we can just start your conversation with can you take us from where it started and up until where we are right now?
Okay, so I'm currently a master's student. I'm 23 years old and I'm based in South Africa. But all through my life, I've been traveling a lot. So I was born in Botswana by Zambian parents. Then we moved to South Africa. So there was a lot of traveling during my childhood. And I'm an eldest daughter, and I have two younger siblings. And unfortunately, my youngest brother has cerebral palsy. So being at a very young age, I was forced to grow up a bit too fast. I didn't really have a chance to be a child. Even though I don't blame my mother for this, but I mean, more focus and more effort and more priority was given to my brother who needed more care. And obviously that also impacted us as siblings who, we wanted to help out and we wanted to, take care of my brother. And although that was fun at the time, I didn't realize it would have not negative consequences, but it would have consequences, growing up as an adult. And I guess that's basically where my anxiety stemmed from, because there was a little bit of childhood neglect. So yeah, I would say that's where my anxiety stemmed from.
You mentioned you're 23-year-old and you are currently doing a master's degree. And for me, when you mentioned those two things, I was like, this one is already a high achiever. As someone who is a high achiever, is it difficult for you to always operate at your most, like at that level of productivity and excellence because of the kind of anxiety you have? Or is it your anxiety that forces you to actually operate on that level?
So I'll say it's a bit of both. I would say I work very, very well under pressure, but procrastination is the one that leads me up to that, that point. So for example, I'll have a task and, I'll leave it up to last minute and I'll stress about it and not do anything about it. But then when it comes time to submit it, let's say the deadline is tomorrow, I will work very, very well under pressure. So yeah, that's me. It's a bit of both.
I think what you're saying really would resonate with a lot of people, especially waiting to the last minute and doing it or dealing with anxiety. And when the pressure comes is when you feel like you can do it. But I also want to just divert a bit into the relationship aspect. I know that work and life, it's like things that work intertwinedly, we do it together. How has this high functioning anxiety affected your relationships?
So I'm more of a giver than a receiver. And, that obviously from my childhood, I've always been giving. I've always been, taking care of this, always been. So I find it very hard to receive. I'm always in, like, how they say in my masculine energy, never in my feminine energy. I'm only now learning how to be like feminine, how to learn how to receive. Because I'm also deserving of the love that I give out. Because every time I always think about, okay, how can I'm a very solution driven person. I think about solutions. I hardly leave solutions for other people or problem solving to other people. That's my default. Okay, let me try and find the solution to this problem.
I remember also in the conversation we had, you had shared that the way of high functioning anxiety also presents itself in relationship is that you have like a
Mm,
anxious attachment style. You know, you're not able to deal with conflict when they come up. Can you talk a
yeah.
little bit more about how you deal with that? And also, lastly, in
Mm,
regards to how this high functioning anxiety also affects your life, because you had also mentioned that
mm,
you are constantly worried about the future. You isolate
yeah.
yourself sometimes. I feel like I would want us to, get into depth in those aspects as well.
Okay, so yeah, anxious attachment style, very feeling very insecure in the relationship, especially very emotionally insecure, and it's something that I really had to learn. And conflict resolution is just, yeah, thinking that you're always right all the time, thinking that you're always right all the time, and then when you feel that you're wrong, you give the other person like the silent treatment, which is very unhealthy coping mechanism, and you expect
Mm-hmm.
them to come back to you. You know, expect them to, like, let's say, apologize to you, expect them to come and for them to be emotionally, to be your emotional safety. It has really affected like daily life. So my thinking, I overthink a lot, and sometimes this overthinking is paralyzing because sometimes I overthink about things I can't control, always thinking about the future, always wanting to be one step or even 10 steps ahead, not managing the now and not being grateful for the now. For example, let's say my goal is to achieve having straight A's. When I achieve the straight A's, I won't be grateful on achieving the straight A. I'll want to, I'll focus on the next goal and not be grateful, not be in the moment. Okay, this is what I achieved. Let me be happy for myself. It's always, wanting
Yeah.
to achieve, wanting to achieve.
The pressure to be perfect is one of the things that drive high functioning anxiety. So the story of our next guest is one that would definitely resonate with so many, professionals who are striving for perfection. Ngozi, who is joining us from the UK, would be sharing with us how her need for perfection has really driven her high functioning anxiety. She shares that she's either dreaming of work or having insomnia and unable to sleep due to the pressures of work. This perfectionist mentality that you have, did it start from childhood, or what is it that you think was the influencing factor for you becoming this person with high functioning anxiety and the perfectionist mentality?
I would say yes. There were some, when I was a child, um, I always wanted to be the best, and I was always the best. So I just literally, when you think, when you're a child, you want to, you have a gift. There's a gift you've been promised. If you get to the first position in your class, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. So it was literally something I was after. So I would always try to become, like, try to be at the top of my class, but I wasn't under any pressure. So that was the difference. So the fact that I wasn't anxious, so I was doing it happily because I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed to be the best. I enjoyed to just make everybody happy. Like, oh, she got this. My daughter got this. Oh, she's the best. Because I used to represent my school in like competitions, quiz competitions, debates, and we won. So those were good things for me. And it helped my mentality. It helped my ability to read, to learn, to always seek to learn more. But in the
Yeah.
banking sector, I was constantly reminded of, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. And that is not the best way to live as a human being. It got so bad to the point that I literally didn't have any work life balance again, because I could leave work at 10 p.m., I wake up at 6, and it was a really, I would say it was a roller coaster, and it was affecting my health terribly. It also affected my self-esteem because no matter the amount of work I had put in place, I still didn't please my manager. The point where it became a major issue for me was when I became critically sick, and it got so bad. I stopped eating. It affected my I stopped taking my lunch. So it was really bad because I could no longer go on lunch. I just wanted to complete this particular problem, wanted to complete this Excel, the spreadsheets, just make sure that your reports and everything is up to date, and ensure that you are exceeding your goals and targets for the day and even for the week. So we all know how ridiculous the targets can be in the banking sector in Nigeria. I'm not going to mention the bank, but it's really ridiculous. Yeah. And It got to the point that I could literally, in my sleep, I was literally seeing my line manager. I was seeing my work, and that was bad because it was affecting my brain. I no longer had time for family, no longer had time to discuss or even enjoy my life because I believe in something. I believe that you live to work, you work to live and not the opposite. So you are
Yeah.
literally just working so you can have an amazing life. But when that is
Yeah.
out of when that is out of when that is not in that, like when you're unable to achieve that, it becomes a problem. This was a reminder for me that the role I just entered, the role I got into, someone passed away about a year ago, and that's the particular role I am in. And when I was in the hospital, it was so bad. No one came to visit me. There wasn't any gift or anything given to me in the hospital. So I just thought to myself, I said, okay, if someone had passed away in this particular point, everybody's gonna forget you. Everybody's gonna move
Yeah.
past you.
Thank you so much, Ngozi, for sharing your story. Thank you so much. I'm sure what you're sharing would be very helpful for other people who are going through perfectionism, especially people who have been high achievers from when they were kids and transitioning into a world where you are no longer, celebrated with gift, but now they are like risk and rewards, and you're now in the corporate field. It can be difficult to be able to switch from that, person who loves to work, who's getting A's, who is the first, and now going into the workplace where no one really cares right now. Is these are the deliverables, this is what needs to be done, and there is this internal need to also be the best at what you're doing, and that can really bring in some level of anxiety. So thank you for sharing that perspective with our viewers as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So joining us on the set to give us expert opinion on how we can recognize high functioning anxiety and also ways we can manage it is community psychologist Njoki Washire from Kenya. Thank you so much, Njoki, for joining us on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you. So the conversation we're having today is on high functioning anxiety, specifically around young people from 18 to the ages of 30. And now you are a community psychologist. Before we even get into you giving us, your lived experiences and what you have noticed when it comes to high functioning anxiety in your community, can you please just let us know what like a community psychologist is? Like, what's the difference between that and just the normal psychologist that people know?
A community psychologist is somebody who actually is very keen on the community they are living in, and a community can mean any group of people who are in a certain area. It could be a workplace, it could be a village where they live in, it could be even a factory. So that's a community of people who are doing something that's similar and have same interests or same tasks that they are conducting together. So a community psychologist is somebody who looks at that group as a unique group and looks at some of the problems socially, economically, psychologically that are affecting this group, and be able to come up with solutions jointly with the community so that they can be able to come up with a solution and solve a problem within the community. So that's what a community psychologist does, and can work in any area where there are a group of human beings doing or carrying out a tasks that are similar. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. And now that you work with a group of people, communities, individuals that are carrying out a task, what have you noticed as a community psychologist on your end?
Yeah, I've noticed that that's a very common trait, especially among young people, because of that transition of from childhood to adulthood. It's always very confusing for people, and I noticed that one of the things that this kind of personality does is presents a false persona to the rest of the world. So inside they are very very different pattern. They feel very different. They're not able to express their feelings or even just have say their desires or wants. So they're actually presenting a very different picture to the world. So it's a very confusing even to somebody else out there. And it's also very common, especially now that people are really in different kinds of anxiety levels. So it's that one is very easy to be masked and not be able to identify by anyone who's around that person. Yeah.
And you've really mentioned something important on how it's like a forced personality and like a mask. And they're probably dealing with some internal issues, but also don't know how to verbalize it. I would like for you to share with us the certain ways that this kind of high functioning anxiety manifests, especially for people who might be having, going dealing with high functioning anxiety, but have never heard the term. So they don't even know how to label that which they are feeling. What are some signs and symptoms that people should look out for?
So it's one of this very unique type of anxiety because it has positives and negatives. And actually, the positives are what masks the negative. So the positives to start with are very normal and actually very attractive traits. So you find that this person is very detail oriented. This person is a high achiever. They're always achieving in their tasks. They're always scoring the A's. They're always actually getting the promotions. And then they also appear very calm and composed. They're also very punctual. They're always up to detail in terms of time. They'll come on time, and then they're active and they help others. They go out of their way just to help others, even around them. And then they are very loyal to relationships. And one of the ways to actually identify such people in a workplace is these people who've been there for very long, when others have come and gone, but this person is just back there and very loyal. There's no maybe increase of income or even promotion, but they're still loyal. Then let's go now to the negatives. The negatives now are also very confusing in a way because first, this person can be an overthinker. This person can also be a people pleaser. These are the people who are always running after the boss and always never say no to the boss, are always saying yes, yes, in the expense of any other things. Then they are constantly they need a reassurance. There are these people who when they do a task, they want to come back to somebody and ask, am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? Can I proceed? So they're constantly asking for reassurance. Then they also do some repetitive habits that you may not notice and you may even think them to be normal. Things like nail biting, shaking the legs. Some of them may also be very keeping rocking their chairs back and forth, but it's just showing that there's something that's not really stable in terms of how they are feeling. Then they procrastinate a lot. Sometimes they may lack sleep, so they come to work feeling very fatigued, or but they've actually met their deadlines, but they're very tired. Then also they have a racing mind. You find that sometimes when you throw a challenge to them, the mind runs very fast, and they're always thinking of even something even before that shouldn't be thought about. So they have a racing mind. Then other things is that people can't really can't really read the character of this person. It's a person who's very confusing, what we call stoic. So it's somebody who you can't place. And then another thing that these people do is that they have limited social life. These are the people in your workplace who don't come to parties, don't want to celebrate things. They just keep to themselves, especially when it comes to social. So those are some of the things. And remember, you can have different traits. And so some of these traits appear to be very normal. Like, for example, if somebody doesn't come for an office party, you think, that's normal. They just don't like people. But deep down, be having some hyper functioning anxiety. Yes.
Wow. I just feel like I should take note because I have been diagnosed with high functioning anxiety. Um my next question now would be, what are ways that we can manage it, because it does have like positives, like you said. You're high functioning, you're able to deliver your task, you're punctual, you're loyal. But again, there is the other part of it, like the second side, where you're very anxious and your mind is racing. How can we manage high functioning anxiety? Is it something that can be cured? Is it something that can be managed? What is the way forward for people who are dealing with high functioning anxiety?
Okay. There's always a solution for high functioning anxiety, especially if it's caught early enough. And I always tell people that the best way to manage it first is to identify and acknowledge it. Once you identify that you are actually a high functioning a person with high functioning anxiety, you actually can now manage and cope, and be intentional in helping this coming up with a solution for this anxiety. So the first thing I always tell people is that you need to seek counseling or seek an expert so that they can be able to tell what level of anxiety are you at. Remember, when this thing goes to extreme or severe, it actually can be unmanageable, and you may need to even go into hospital and get some medication for it. But once it's caught early, you can actually have some personal self-driven activities that actually can help cope. So another thing you can do is also exercise. Exercise actually keeps your mind busy and draws your attention away from the anxiety. And then remember, with exercise, you get the feel good hormones, which actually come in, and you're able to feel good about yourself and also relax. Then I also tell people you can also try some meditation. Meditation helps you relax, and it most importantly helps you breathe in and out. And remember, when you get air into your body, your blood is able to flow very well, and you're able to be able to cope much better. Then another thing I always tell people, you need to sleep well, you need to also eat well. And then the last thing that I always ask anyone who I actually would identify to have high functional anxiety is to journal. When you write down, you actually are talking to yourself. And then when you come back to that journal, you can actually tell yourself, I think I was exaggerating here. I was overthinking here. So journaling is a very good self-help. So for the first thing, before you seek help, you can try your self-help, as well as also seek help, and then also try the self-help.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Njoki, for giving us this really robust, in such a short time. I have learned so much, and you have really put a lot of information out there. Thank you so much for sharing your expert opinion with us. It's been such a pleasure learning and connecting with you on this platform. Thanks a lot. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. I want to thank all the guests who came on the show to share their stories. We really appreciate your honesty and vulnerability. To our community psychologist, Njoki Washira, that gave us expert opinion on how we can manage high-functioning anxiety. Thank you so much for those expert opinions. And of course, to our audience and our viewers everywhere watching from different parts of the world, we thank you so much for watching. And we hope that this episode has really empowered you with information that you need to be able to recognize high functioning anxiety. And if you're someone who is going through it at the moment, giving you tips that you can be able to manage it. Again, do not forget that, do not believe that you are alone in this journey. There are so many people that are going through this with you. So go out there and seek out help from therapists, from friends, and sometimes just talking to people that you love about what you're going through is one way that you can navigate this high functioning anxiety. Till next time, my name is LOLO CYNTHIA. Thank you so much for watching the LOLO CYNTHIA Show. Bye-bye.